Hello and welcome to CelloProfessor.com. I'm Jamie Fiste and I teach cello at Central Michigan University. Today we're talking about two basic concepts that are very important and very interrelated. We're talking about a straight bow, what that means, and if there are any exceptions to that. And we're also talking about staying in your lane. Those are two very connected concepts and are almost saying the same thing. Now, as cellists become more advanced, they begin to experiment with different bow angles and so forth, and lane changing as they do their phrasing, which I think is necessary. Stay tuned for another video where I go into a lot more detail on that. But before you start messing around with that sort of thing, you need to develop a discipline, and that is the ability to stay in your lane and maintain a nice straight bow that is at a 90-degree angle to the string. So I think the best way to do that is to find a mirror and get close enough to the mirror, because I think if you're too far from the mirror, it's still kind of hard to tell. So it needs to be a wide enough mirror and a mirror that you can sit close enough to so that you can really observe your bow. Now, when they're talking about the bow being straight, people usually are referring to straight with the bridge. I think it's a little easier to tell by looking at the bottom of the fingerboard. So I will say straight with the bottom of the fingerboard, and I think it's okay to look. If you do look, check out my video on posture. But if you follow your jawline up with your two fingers till you get to the ear, that's approximately where your skull pivots on top of your spine. It's close enough for these purposes. So I would look down that way and with your eyes so that you can see if your bow is in fact straight with the bottom of the fingerboard. All right. Don't do this, in other words. All right. I don't want to see anyone doing that. That's mishigas. That's mishigas. Okay. So where were we in all this? Yes, keeping the bow straight and staying in your lane. Now, one thing you need to keep in mind while you're doing this is that the angle of the bow is going to be different in the arm and in the hand depending on what string you're on. It's because the bridge is curved like this. So when you're bowing on the C string at the frog, let's talk about at the frog first. This is what you're going to need to do. Just like that. This is a windshield wiper that goes not vertically but horizontally. Right? So using just your fingers, don't use your wrist, just your fingers, put the bow out and bring it in. And you'll have the angle on the C string. When it's this way, that's the A string. You'll have to confirm by looking in your mirror. All right, so this is a really important technique to have, is the ability to do this. Okay, so let me just say a couple things about this. First of all, do not do this with the wrist. If you do this with the wrist, you're going to end up like this. You see this kink? This is your ulna bone, and this is called ulnar deviation, and we do want to avoid that as much as possible. So that means you do this with the fingers, that way, and what will happen is the angle in your hand is going to be a little different here. It's going to look like that. See that? A little tough to tell. So do it just with your fingers. That's the first thing I want to say. And that takes a little bit of practice. That's not something that just comes immediately, like virtually everything with cello technique. First, you understand what you want to do with the motion or the particular hold of the bow or something else on the cello, and then you need to work it into your muscle memory. Okay. Good. So that's the first thing I wanted to mention. The other thing is this won't be the only place you hear this, but there's the rowboat. So if you put your bow at the tip of the bow, this is keeping the bow straight or at a 90-degree angle to the string by doing the rowboat. So when I go to the low string, my arms pull back. When I go here, my arm opens up. My arm closes, my arm opens. So there is a little more reach on the A string, which brings me to my next point. Don't be so obsessed with keeping your bow straight that you end up like this. And this is what happens with people with short arms. They'll get to the tip of the bow, and as string players, we're just way too concerned about the bow being straight at the tip that we will sacrifice like virtually everything else in technique to maintain it. People with short arms are literally like this. Their shoulder blade, their scapula is protracted, which is not a good position, and this creates all kinds of tension back here. Mishigas, I tell you. It's all mishigas. Okay? Do this. I'll do it on the D string. It's easier to see. Do you see what I did? I pulled back. No difference in sound. It's just as big. What I like to do is flatten the hair as I come to the tip. Pull back. For some reason, the flatter hair helps me with a smooth bow change. I haven't figured out exactly why, but it does. Same thing here. Now, you don't need to do this unless you can't reach. I mean, by all means, if your arm is long enough, just go ahead and keep the bow straight at a 90-degree angle to the string. Keep the bow straight with the bridge all the way to the tip on the A string. Related to that too, and you can look back on the video on holding the cello, is when you're on the A string, it can also help reaching. Right? Keeping your bow as straight as you can until you reach this point and pull back. But it can help. If your cello tilts this way, I don't know why would we want to do that? Okay? Keep it a little tilted this way when you're on the A string, and that can also help maintain your bow angle. I wanted to talk about something else here, trying to move along, and that is what I call peanut butter and jelly. Yes, peanut butter and jelly. How many of you like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? I admit that I do like them quite a bit. Now, why do I bring up peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? Well, my teacher told me, she studied with Starker, and Starker would talk about peanut butter near the bridge and margarine, a feeling of spreading margarine when you're near the fingerboard on the bread. Just like when you spread peanut butter on bread, you have to go slowly and a bit heavier. It's thick, especially the Trader Joe natural peanut butter if it's been in the fridge for a while. And you have to go slow or you will rip the bread. Right? So, same thing. Feels kind of like peanut butter. And then up here, feels kind of like margarine. Okay, so what I do is, these videos are also about teaching and teaching kids in particular, getting young cellists on the right track, and so on. So when I teach younger students, and I try to always have some younger cellists in my pre-college studio at all times, so I don't lose touch with them. I have to teach string tech class after all at CMU. I will use the phrase peanut butter and jelly. All right, so I'll talk about this goes on easy like Welch's grape jelly. All right, so beware, Mad Cello Professor is about to happen here, because I have a little tune that I learned at camp when I was young, and it was called, that's correct, Peanut Butter and Jelly. And I used that little tune to do an exercise with the bow. I think it's better just to show you. Okay, watch this. Peanut butter, jelly. Peanut butter, jelly. First you take the peanuts and you pick them. You pick them. You pick them, then you smash them. You smash them. You smash them, then you spread them. You spread them. You spread them. You get peanut butter, jelly. Peanut butter, jelly. Then you take the berries and you pick them. You pick them. You pick them, then you smash them. You smash them. You smash them, then you spread them. You spread them. You spread them. You get peanut butter, jelly. Peanut butter, jelly. So what did I do? Whenever I'm singing about peanut butter, picking the peanuts, smashing the peanuts, and spreading the peanuts, I'm bowing near the bridge and spreading the peanut butter. Okay, that resistance. And when I'm singing about jelly and picking the berries, I'm up here near the fingerboard. When I start the refrain, I like to start it down bow. Peanut, peanut butter, jelly. And that's that. This is the video. Get those bows straight. Work on your rowboat. Work on your windshield wiper. And work on your peanut butter and jelly. So you learn to stay in your lane and keep the bow straight in at least these two places, near the bridge and up to the fingerboard. And in the process too, you're learning how those two areas feel, because eventually you're going to want to be transitioning between them in more advanced playing, which I will do in the follow-up video to this. Good to see you. I'll see you around at the next video. Take care.